Live takes a few, it takes a few seconds. So as soon as we're ready on Facebook Live as well, we're gonna start.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We should all be connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you are hearing me fine. I hope you're hearing me well. Welcome, everybody, to the 5th edition of the Afro Fashion Week Milano. This is the Fashion for Empowerment webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. This is such a great opportunity for a necessary discussion, necessary conversation to improve an industry that we all love so much and that we all agree that can actually do a lot for society and that can be used as a great tool, for several things. One of those is empowerment. So today we have a few special guests that I'm about to introduce to you all. So we're gonna start with Federica Dottori, who is the head of International Promotion Department at Sistema Moda Italia. Then we have
Buongiorno.
Melody.
Hello, everybody.
Then we have Melody Thomas, a journalist at Marie Claire France.
Hi.
Fnan Teklay, I hope I haven't butchered your name.
You got it right.
Okay. Who is personal brand strategist and contributor at Forbes Italia.
Hey, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Louis Pisano, writer, activist, and contributor at Harper's Bazaar.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so today what we're going to try to discuss is how fashion can and is functioning as a level for economic development and empowerment in Africa. And so we're all going to talk about everything, empowerment and conversations and working together to achieve empowerment for Black people, the African diaspora in Italy, but also, the African continent as a whole. So I'm gonna start with Louis Pisano. Are you ready, Louis?
Ready.
Okay. So fashion has highly influenced the perception of different social groups through the setting of trends since the beginning of time. But the creation of a personal and unique style is one of the more visible forms of self-expression, as well as a tool to spread powerful messages on and off the runway. When it comes to fashion and empowerment, it seems as though the racialized ethnic groups, aka people of color, are not taken into consideration as much as white women, who are the most targeted category, and the LGBTQ plus community that has been successfully using style to conquer freedom of expression. Could you give us some examples of an empowerment momentum or collection led by designers from the African diaspora that was bypassed or ignored? And why do you think does that happen? And what more needs to be done by the media, aka magazines, and by the industry itself?
An example that I remember, probably the first collective of African designers that I ever encountered in the fashion industry would have been a collective at New York Fashion Week called the Arise Collective, that was organized by Arise Magazine. And I think it was 4 designers from Africa. I think it was mainly a connector from Lagos to New York. And they had a show during Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week. And I noticed it, like, here and there on Twitter, and a few, Women's Wear Daily covered it a few times, but I never really saw a huge industry push behind those designers. It was like, oh, there's this event happening during New York Fashion Week for African designers. But after that, you never saw, those designers appearing in Vogue or Elle or anything like that, or having a celebrity moment. You never saw a big, Anna Wintour push behind it, So for me, and I know this Arise Collective is still around, but I think there needs to be more of a push behind these things, because people, they lose interest if you have huge names behind it.
True. Yeah, I would agree with you. Does any other of you guys would like to add something to what Louis Pisano has said? Or maybe it could be other examples, or maybe some other solutions to these kind of issues. Feel free to add.
Personally, I can just agree with Louis, just because when we see what happened during last Fashion Week with Naomi Campbell being present for the first fashion show of Kenneth Eze, this is the reason why there was a lot of mainstream Western press talked about the fashion show and talked about the designer. It was because she was there. And I think having this type of personalities using their influence to promote and to put some light on those young designers, that's what make the global mainstream fashion industry to just pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else would like to add something?
I mean, I think a good example of a designer that did really break through in a big way, like Kenneth, was Bebe Magugu, who just won last year the LVMH prize here in Paris. And he's had like quite a year after winning that, and I think that it's not that African designers, South African designers are not talented. You just need that, unfortunately, but this is the industry that we're in, you need that, industry co-sign on you for people to really take you seriously.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really unfortunate how the diaspora, how designers from the African diaspora get completely bypassed or ignored almost constantly, it seems, even when they try to spread powerful messages through their collections. So now moving on to Melody Thomas. Here I have the question written in Italian. Please let me know if you would like me to translate it in English. I can do that for you. We're trying to make the channel bilingual for the international and also the Italian viewers as well. So, che relazione c'è tra la Francia e l'Africa? Riferendosi precisamente al settore moda, come si pone la Francia di fronte invece alla moda del continente africano, secondo lei, e come si pone l'Italia nei confronti della moda della diaspora africana rispetto alla Francia?
So I think the first thing to say would be that France is a former colonial empire. So it still have an impact on how the relationship with the African continent is being led. That being said, when you look the fashion industry more precisely, and Africa has always been a source of inspiration. We have seen it with like huge designers, Saint Laurent, Jean-Paul Gaultier, like through the years, through the decades. Western and I should say white designers have been inspired by Africa and by the craftsmanship happening there. It's not just the how could I say that? It's not just the ethnic aspect of things. It's also like the craftsmanship that is interesting for a more mainstream global audience. But it's really recently, like France is really shy about promoting Black designers, like I think in a lot of other European and Western countries. So it's really recent to have designers like Tebe Magugu, as Louis just said, Kenneth Izé, who have been put on the map for the French scene. I think one of the first, I don't want to say the first, even if I think it's him, but Patrick Kelly, the American designers, was the first American designer to enter La Chambre Syndicale de la Mode. And I think he was also the first Black designer to do so. After that, in France, we have Zulibet. It's a French brand. It's a brand created by Black designers coming from Mali, and it's been there for a few decades now. But it doesn't have the same. It has not been it has not been framed the same way as we can see young Black designers are right now coming from the continent. So I think there's not such a difference between the way France and Italy are treating Black designers. Maybe the sole difference will be Italy has been more open regarding this situation. It might be weird to do so because I know you have also your difficulties over there. But Camera de la Moda made a manifesto with Kimberly Jenkins last year. So the Camera de la Moda has really been kind of vocal actually regarding this aspect regarding the fashion industry. But the French Chambre Syndicale didn't do so. And also, I know you have some few initiatives like Ethical Fashion Initiative led by Simone Cipriani. In Italy, you have Stella Jean, you have some, I think PTOM also made something with African designers few years ago, but in France it's still really, really slow. And we kind of are using right now the few Black designers we have just to promote some aspect of diversity, but it's going against a French principle, which is universalism. By this concept, France argues that everybody should be treated equally, and so we should not being put in light regarding our race or where we're coming from. So what is supposed to help people to be equally represented in the society is actually being used to push aside the real difficulties we have in France regarding race and regarding everything.
Very interesting, this last thing you have pointed out. Louis Pisano, since you currently live in France, would you like maybe to add something to what Melody has said?
I think Melody hit it right on the head, the universalism here in France, that, they use it to sort of not do anything about the problem. And, in their head, they're correct. They think they're correct, so.
I find some similarities with Italy as well, with the fact that, there really is no problem. We really have nothing to solve here. And if you point out an issue, we have been working on it, or maybe we haven't noticed at all. It's all about lack of responsibility. Nobody wants to take responsibility
Yeah, you say something, you know, you're the troublemaker trying to cause a division.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. When you point out issues that are already there, for the most part. So moving on to Federica Dottori. For the
Bellamy, I would like to just say a few words on this last question.
Yeah, please.
Well, actually, I think the way is a quite long way. And it's not only concerning African designers, but all the emerging designers all over the world. The competition actually now is global. So it's not only European or, you know, based on continents. So for everybody is an hard job to have the attention of the press and the customers and all the fashion industry. And I believe that a designer should keep on doing his best, follow the dreams, and use maybe social media, because social media nowadays is more democratic now compared with the older means of advertisement. I do remember what Melody was saying, that in 2016, so 4 years ago, in the frame of PT Uomo, there was organized a particular fashion show, Generation Africa, and there were the creation of 4 African brands, JP from South Africa, Ikire Jones from Nigeria, and other 2. Now I don't remember exactly the names, but the Generation Africa was born from a partnership from Fondazione PT and Ethical Fashion Initiative. And the project was created to support the capability of these micro companies from Africa to connect with the fashion sector, to support, let's say, the young and talented fashion designer from Africa, and to show the potent, the wonderful creative energy from the continent, from the African continent, in the fashion sphere. But after that, what?
Yeah.
So we need to find sponsor, let's say, but I'm not talking about finance support, which is of course important, but it's a kind of mind scheme that need time. And I know now the things in general are moving faster, because everything is faster, and the digital connection will help. So I'm quite optimistic that things will change, not slowly, as we were used to support in the past. But still, I mean, this is a general speaking, so for young designer. But concerning specifically Africans, African designer, you know, I'm a jury in this award, international award, is Moda Fashion Award. I've been there for 13 years, and is an Italian award dedicated, focus on young designer, on people that just finished the school or has already made 1 or 2 collection, but really at the beginning of their career. And is the oldest fashion award and the biggest, because it gathered together 600 schools, fashion school all over the world. So sometimes, you know, the winner is a Chinese girl studying at Marangoni. Sometimes an Italian boy studying at San Martin School. So it's very mixed, the provenience of these guys, of these talent, of these fashion designers. But the people from Africa are still really, I don't remember any, because I think our schools, the Italian fashion school especially, which I know better, are full of foreigner people. I mean, not Italian native, but the people from Africa are very few. I don't know if the reason is because you have, I mean, in Africa there are good schools, maybe, I don't know, but they are not taking part to Mittel Moda Fashion Awards, maybe, or because sometimes they put everything on creativeness, which is in your DNA. I mean, on African people DNA, they're very creative. But then, I mean, between creative and realization, there are some steps. So sometimes maybe they can't enter the industry because the lack of not experience, but of capability of make the dream come true. So maybe they don't know, because if our if the students after the primary school, the secondary school, and you know the college go to these I always say Marangoni, but Secoli and whatever, I mean, all the Italian school, and it's an after degree, and they study for 4 years. It means that there is a lot to learn. So I think there is also a question. Sorry, I'm very open and I'm very direct.
Mm-hmm.
And I say what I think. So I hope that is also a question of mentality, and it needs time. But I also have to say that maybe the young designer from Africa, sometimes, I mean, the very young ones, I'm not talking about somebody who made a lot of collection that are very good, that everybody agree on the capability of the designer, but it needs, you know, the sponsor that I was saying before. So of course, if your dress are worn by the first American lady, then it's done, okay? But if you are at the beginning of your career, maybe you have also to deep into the fashion, how can I say, sì, magari ecco, concentrarsi di più su quelle che sono le nozioni necessarie al di là della creatività,
Mm-hmm.
per poter poi creare una collezione, perché a volte mi sembra che gli studenti, diciamo i giovani designer, quelli che magari hanno deciso di intraprendere questa carriera, manchino di quel tassello, cioè di quel punto del puzzle che gli serve per poi poter trovare una collaborazione con l'industria, no? Entrare in un'azienda che produca moda, per entrare in un ufficio stile, per cominciare a muovere i primi passi, ancora prima, diciamo, di andare sulla passerella. Ci sono degli step precedenti che magari vedono una collaborazione con un'azienda italiana, ma per arrivare a quello devi dimostrare delle capacità di rendere quello che è il tuo progetto di collezione in realtà, e forse è necessario dover approfondire gli studi, perché quello che noi troviamo in Italia in queste scuole, che sono scuole post diploma, I ragazzi studiano per altri 4 anni. E quindi cosa vuol dire? Che ci sono delle materie che sono importanti da studiare per 4 anni, vuol dire che è un approfondimento della teoria che poi viene anche messo in pratica perché fanno tanto laboratorio. Quindi in generale, questo nel mondo, come mai abbiamo tantissimi studenti che partecipano, che frequentano le scuole di moda italiane, ma anche in generale di altre aree del mondo rinomate, tipo appunto facevo l'esempio della St. Martin che conosciamo tutti, e però dall'Africa ce ne sono pochi rispetto ad altri di studenti. Allora è chiaro che già fanno fatica quelli che hanno il degree e hanno il master e hanno diciamo tutto il bagaglio di scuola, di formazione, di education, e quindi la competizione diventa ancora più dura. Poi c'è anche il discorso di trovare qualcuno che sponsorizzi, che aiuti il giovane stilista a emergere e a essere conosciuto dal consumatore, perché è chiaro che poi il mercato, lo diciamo sempre, è il consumatore che lo fa, perché quando c'è la domanda poi i negozi multibrand si metteranno ad acquistare anche quelle linee di quegli stilisti, perché se c'è richiesta. Però sono 2 discorsi in parallelo. Un conto è il giovane designer, diciamo, appena uscito dalla scuola, dagli studi, che decide di intraprendere la carriera, e un conto è lo stilista che ha già iniziato a lavorare, che è già stato apprezzato magari dai media e che però poi non trova in realtà un concreto riscontro, o almeno un riscontro a lungo della sua carriera.
Sì, è molto chiaro. Adesso
È molto complesso.
I would just like to.
Messaggio. Does have all of you understood what Federica Dottori has said, or would you like some clarification, perhaps?
No, it's okay for me.
It's okay for me.
I would maybe just like to jump in because I think what she said was interesting regarding the fact that maybe African students don't go to fashion school, Western fashion school, or maybe lack of great fashion school in their own countries or cities. It's actually, I think it can also be a content, it can be a fact, but for me, there's also 2 things. There's kind of a lack of curiosity from Western, from the Western industry, Western fashion scene regarding the young African designers. I think maybe schools don't do the job like they're doing in Europe or in the Western countries in general, like reaching out in those communities, reaching out in those localities just to be like, oh, you have a fashion school. What kind of student do you have? Are they interested to study abroad? I think this kind of reach that you can see, like from London to Paris, from Paris to the States, from the States to China, Japan, or a lot of other schools and cities, is not being made with young African designers. And also, I think another thing you said was really interesting is the fact, like, and Louis talked about it a few moments earlier. The fact that you have to be dubbed by someone who's already in the new to have the doors of fashion being open for you, and it can be difficult when you're coming from a country and a continent that have been mostly despised by the persons that are leading the fashion industries right now, because you have been introduced like someone who needs help, like someone who is not able to, I don't know, have its own agency. So it might be difficult to just find a mentor as easily as a young designer from France or from the States can maybe reach out to. And we're talking about young African designers, but I can say it's also the same from Black people coming from the African diaspora. It's been really recently, like I'm just talking about Paris, it's really recently that Casa 93, which is a free school that allowed people who have not a fashion background to study freely and to be afterwards, they might be included to the EFM, which is one of the biggest fashion school we have here that's dealing with marketing and fashion design. So it's been made for the last 2-3 years, but it's a recent reach. And I think maybe the lack of education might not be the sole, one of the main issue regarding this.
Anyone else would like to add something to what Federica Dottori has said? Otherwise, we move on because we have a lot more questions for you guys. Ancora lei, Federica Dottori, la domanda successiva era per lei, in realtà in parte ci ha già risposto. Le domande sono più focalizzate a livello di industria, no? Fra continenti, quindi industria moda tra Italia e il continente africano. C'è un futuro e come associazione, quindi Sistema Moda Italia e come associazione di industrie, come vedete il futuro delle relazioni tra le aziende di moda italiane e quelle del continente africano e quali relazioni intercorrono, se ci sono, tra l'industria della moda italiana e le risorse della diaspora africana presenti sul territorio. Iniziamo da queste due domande.
Sì, dunque, Bellamy, io ritengo che la moda italiana sia sempre stata aperta a scambi di visioni e di collaborazioni con tutto il mondo. Ovviamente in un mondo dove la competizione è globale è chiaro che noi non possiamo vincere la competizione del costo di produzione, basata sul costo di produzione, ma dobbiamo puntare sulla creatività, sul nostro saper fare bene, sul know-how che si è accumulato in secoli di storia, senza peraltro trascurare la volontà e la capacità di investire in prodotti sempre più sostenibili. La nostra industria, l'industria della moda italiana, ha fatto dell'artigianalità e delle diverse culture che sono presenti sul nostro territorio elementi di forza, e è riuscita a mantenere integra tutta la filiera ed è un elemento di forza importantissimo, e avere tutta la filiera, quindi dal filato al prodotto finito, è un'unicità in tutto il mondo occidentale. L'Africa dispone sicuramente di cultura, di conoscenze, di risorse umane che potrebbero consentirle, ovviamente con le debite differenze, di fare un percorso analogo su cui costruire la propria industria. Quindi c'è un'analogia tra i nostri due, diciamo, mondi moda, perché abbiamo dei punti di forza simili. Lo sviluppo del settore tessile aprirebbe tra l'altro in Africa la possibilità di avviare attività green alimentate anche con fonti rinnovabili di energia, o di per esempio incentivare la costruzione di impianti per la trasformazione in loco del cotone. Quindi sicuramente i settori dell'energia rinnovabile, dell'agribusiness, delle nuove tecnologie, insieme al settore del tessile, sono tutte potenzialità importanti per le piccole e medie imprese italiane che possono arricchire il continente africano con le proprie conoscenze e le proprie tecnologie. Quindi in sintesi, diciamo, arrivando al nocciolo della sua domanda, quello che ritengo debba essere considerato dalla industria italiana della moda nei confronti dell'industria africana, delle aziende africane, è lo sviluppo di relazioni di partenariato, cioè un legame dove le produzioni in territorio africano possano dar vita a prodotti made with Africa, in modo da favorire lo sviluppo di un prodotto interessante anche per il mercato africano, dove diciamo si dia vita a un prodotto bello e ben fatto italiano che si incrocia con la creatività e con lo stile di vita del consumatore anche del continente africano. Quindi diciamo una opportunità di scambio interculturale e di impresa creativa, e quindi il futuro che vedo è quello che si vuole approfondire queste possibilità di sviluppo di business ispirati all'incontro tra imprenditorialità e creatività italiana ed africana.
Secondo me, lei
Questo
vede
per quanto riguarda la relazione industriale Italia e Africa. Per quanto riguarda la seconda domanda che volgeva alla relazione tra moda italiana e risorse afro sul territorio, sul nostro territorio,
sì,
sul territorio italiano, no?
sì.
Ma, diciamo che non è una domanda semplicissima. Abbiamo visto che la globalizzazione si è accostata a flussi migratori importanti, sempre più importanti, che hanno avuto una grande influenza sul settore della moda, perché la moda vive in simbiosi con l'ambiente culturale in cui si sviluppa. Quindi questi flussi migratori hanno determinato anche un fenomeno di multiculturalismo della moda e che diviene sempre più democratica all'interno di questo villaggio, posso dire, globale in cui viviamo, e si sviluppa sempre più velocemente, mettendo insomma in connessione le persone che vivono davvero in parti opposte del nostro globo. Questo multiculturalismo secondo me emerge sicuramente nelle passerelle, dove abbiamo visto ormai da decenni anche sfilare modelle e modelli di origine africana. Lo abbiamo visto anche dagli stilisti che hanno inizialmente preso spunto no? Dai temi etnici, però quello che secondo me è cambiato nel corso dei decenni è che non è più solo un'ispirazione quella che prendono gli stilisti italiani nei confronti dell'Africa, ma è proprio una realizzare in maniera cioè con contaminazioni, con penetrazioni, con simbiosi tipici della vostra, cioè diciamo della cultura e della creatività africana. Quindi io vedo una possibile crescita insieme dove due stilisti, un italiano e un africano, possono collaborare per dar vita a creazioni sempre più multiculturali. Quindi voglio dire, così è la realtà che viviamo, così saranno i vestiti che porteremo. Quindi in questo senso non solo vedo un interesse da parte del consumatore per collezioni proprio nate dall'animo di stilisti diciamo del continente africano, ma anche collaborazioni in senso stretto nell'ufficio stile tra squadre fatte di persone che hanno radici diverse ma una creatività vibrante comune.
Va bene, grazie mille. Speriamo, diciamo che i propositi ci sono, bisogna vedere se effettivamente in tempi brevi, diciamo, quindi non fra 10, 20, 30 anni, si riuscirà a raggiungere questi buoni obiettivi. La ringrazio. Andiamo avanti che il tempo sta volando. Fnan Teklay, moving on to you.
Yes.
So this is the year of taking actions and holding brands, companies, publication, and so on accountable. As a people of color personal brand strategist, are you working exclusively with people of color brands? And in what ways do you think fashion and the fashion industry can empower all the young entrepreneurs out there?
Okay. So the majority of my clients are people of color, yes. They're usually from Africa, the Middle East, and the US, who all have competitive skill sets, talent, and are multilingual entrepreneurs, as well as business owners, where I help them to identify their unique value, therefore what makes them different, and we get to monetize their expertise and message. To answer your second question, I believe that fashion, or the fashion industry in general, can empower young entrepreneurs by getting them involved in the creative process of fashion, giving them the opportunity and space to share their ideas, their points of view, their concerns, and in general, their input, which is extremely relevant to brands in this modern age. I believe that fashion can also empower young leaders, especially people of color, to feel confident about who they are, about how they view themselves, and what they're capable of doing. So, and this they can do by communicating these values. These brands need to let their audiences and us in general know that these values are important to them by putting out messages out there that are relevant or that resonate with our values, their images, things that they put in their magazines, content in general, as well as, the people who they interview and spotlight, so on and so forth. There's so many ways that they can communicate these to their audiences, or just young people of color. And we, as even small entrepreneurs and mini influencers out there, we need to hold these brands within the fashion industry responsible to use their influence to impact and empower diverse young people. And thankfully, we have the power to do that today, thanks to the internet and social platforms. Our voices are louder than ever. So I'm glad that we have that opportunity to do so today.
Mm-hmm. And Louis Pisano has been doing that for quite some time, and also in a very, and has been also effective. We all follow him on social media, and I feel like his work is the proof.
Is the proof
that it takes a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm. It isn't easy.
And a lot of mental strength, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I believe you can attest with Louis that you have seen, I mean, brands are watching, as even though the actions may not always follow
Mm-hmm.
the intentions that they say they have, but they are watching, they are hearing, they are listening, so they know. No. Correct me, all of you, if I'm wrong, but it seems like they do know what are the areas where they.
Definitely, this Milan Fashion Week, I can definitely tell which brands have, they don't want to call out. They don't want to get called out this Fashion Week, and you know what? They're not going to, because they're doing what they should have been doing all of this time. So.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. So now the next question is for all of you guys. I feel like we have partially answered to these questions, in the previous, but maybe you would like to add something a little more specific. So in the last couple of years, in several Western countries, there has been an increasing fascination with clothing items fabrics, and accessories that are part of the tradition of some African countries. We have seen some collections that have really really gotten inspiration. Let's use the word inspiration to be
let's
here. From the tradition of different African countries. And we have also seen African-inspired collections on the runway, yet fashion brands and designers from the diaspora seems to still be struggling to get the deserved recognition and admiration by the gatekeepers in the industry. So we're talking about affirmed fashion designers. We're not talking about, newcomers and beginners. Despite just to name a few, the Johannesburg Fashion Week, the Lagos Fashion Week, the Dakar Fashion Weeks, that have, right now in 2020, we can say that they are not only known locally, but thanks to social media, they have, been, they have reached an international public. And also the recent Hanifa innovative virtual fashion show, and also influential creatives like Trevor Sturnham, just to name one. They have all been successful in showcasing the amazing talents of designers from all over the continent, through through social media, like Federica Dottori has suggested, previously earlier, that to use social media to reach a bigger audience. We have already, I'm saying we, as a part of the African diaspora, but designers from the African diaspora have been doing this for quite some time. We have all admired their fashion shows, and we have all seen an improvement in the technique, in the collections. But despite all of this work, they still do not get the recognition, the admiration from the gatekeepers. Why do you think is that? Speaking of accessibility, because the accessibility is a problem for beginners, but it is also a problem for, the access into the industry. It's also a problem for affirmed designers who have been working on their craft. So why do you think in 2020 it's still such a big problem? It's still a big obstacle. Whoever wants to start first.
I can start. Okay. I feel like, these designers aren't really given the spotlight that they deserve, because when you come to Milan and France and these other countries, we have so many designers who are, let's say, fighting to get that exposure, really trying their best to know the person who's going to help take their career to the next level. In Italy, at least, I believe that people get opportunities because they know people in power places. And this continues to happen because, from my experience of working in the fashion industry in the first few years that I moved here and I lived here, was that I wasn't given the position or the chance, the opportunity to attend an event, to go to a press event, or to attend a powerful fashion party, to attend these important places where you end up finding these power people. And as a personal brand strategist today, I teach my students and I teach everybody to find a way to be in those places, in these locations where they can meet someone who has, let's say, who is a decision maker. African designers do not have access to that yet. They don't know someone, most of the time, they don't know somebody who can take their, let's say, their career into the next level. They don't know the person who can help them be featured on, I don't know, Vogue, and these other important platforms. They don't have that connection. And that's why I really feel like, even I said this before, that it is our responsibility to make sure that these designers do have access to this and are able to connect with people, to network with you know, these influential people who can affect their careers.
Yes, to say also, because following what Melody has said before, it's mainly because of when the continent, because the continent has been neglected for so long, there hasn't been the chance, you know, to form any kind of relations because it has been ignored and neglected. So that already is maybe a first obstacle that from other countries and other continents do not have to face, because they have always been on the radar. The African countries have not been on the radar. So they start from a step, from a lower step.
They start from zero.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to reply?
This is what I would. I agree with Federica when she said also the interest within the fashion industry for emerging designers is quite new, actually. So I think it's also the reason why young African designers and African designers have difficulties to reach a certain point. There's of course the neglected part that we already talked about, but there's also the fact that emerging designers are not really treated the kind way in the industry right now. We have seen a lot of young designers being put into the light for a few seasons and then being brushed away because they don't have the financial capacity to maintain and sustain their businesses. So right now, there have been a lot of fashion prizes. There have been a lot of maybe a little bit more of exposure, even if mainstream media are still kind of shy regarding emerging designers because they don't drive the same attentions than affirmed ones. We also have to keep in mind, and I'm working in the mainstream magazine, a woman mainstream magazine, so I know that we have to keep in mind that if you're talking about the digital aspect of the media, when you're focusing on one young designers, you're not going to have the same attractions than when you're talking about Dior or Louis Vuitton and everything, because the name is not well known. So there's a balance that has to be found, and I think we still don't find it. We still, within the industry at every capacity, hasn't found the way where we can put some light in young designers, but help them maintain healthy business. And this is why I think it's really interesting to see right now the help some platform provides. I think mostly about e-shops, Matches.com, Net-a-Porter, all of them have created few collective of young designers. They regroup them and try to give them some exposure. I think it's something we are going to see more and more in the years to come, and it might be interesting to see if those platforms are reaching out to African designers the same way as I reach out to young designers coming from Western countries.
Bellamy, I would like to add also something about this. As I said, the competition is global, so it's a harder job than before to get some visibility for any younger designer, from every country comes. But there are always two sides of the coin. And I want to underline once again the fact that maybe a cooperation, a collaboration with, I don't know, this is a tip from Federica Dottori. It's not a point of view of the industry, fashion industry I represent. But if I had, I don't know, a sister or a brother looking for some visibility in this field, I would put the amount of money, I mean, my small budget into a collaboration with the influencer. This is a way, because anyway, an influencer could spread your garments, your collection under the eyes of thousands of followers. So I would start from the young. So cooperation between young designer, young people, young follower, and young influencer, because the future is for the young. And Africa itself represents this, because with your, demography, con la situazione demografica, in 2050, 1 on 4 people will be from Africa. So, there are always two sides of the coins, and nowadays, and everybody knows that to be appealing, of course, the old name, Dior, Valentino, Armani, Christian Dior, and blah blah blah, will remain. But people, especially the young consumer that the industry is looking to, needs some fresh brands, fresh names. And it's not the case that nowadays, in these days, during the phygital, how they call it, Fashion Week in Milano, La Rinascente, which is, well known, but is the main store we do have in Milano concerning the department store, is showing the collection of 15, 20 young designers. Nobody knows them. At least I've never heard the names, but they are already, walking on the way. And their collection is in the, I think, last floor of Rinascente. I don't want to advertise for Rinascente, but there's a meaning in this, because it's, of course, it's Camera della Moda that asked to La Rinascente to make this a kind of exhibition. But if Camera della Moda, who organized the fashion calendar, is pushing these young designers, and Camera has never done that before. A lot of talks, but concretely, it means that the things are changing, in my opinion. I'm positive. Let's talk about this in next Afro Fashion Week edition. We will see something moving, I hope.
Hopefully, but do you know if among these 15, 20 new young designers, are they all Italian? Are they from mixed backgrounds?
I don't know the nationality. I will have a look too, but I do know for sure that are made in Italy. So they are producing in the Italian country, because it's for pushing made in Italy.
Okay.
But the provenience is not known to me.
Okay, so
I'll have a look.
Sorry to cut you off, but we're running out of time. So I'm moving on to the next question, which actually links to what you have just said when it comes to influencers and relying on social media and young people to attract visibility and so on. A case that, this is a very personal question of mine, but a case that has caught my personal attention is the impact of some celebrities, like Beyonce, for example, that has constantly chosen to wear African designers, starting with Tongoro Studio and Loza Malehombo over a year ago. And more recently in Black is King, where a lot of African brands, stylists, and creatives were featured and showcased internationally in a way that has probably never done before. She went ahead and created a page on her website with a list of Black-owned fashion businesses to shop from as well. Now, putting capitalistic motives and appropriation criticism aside, this is not where we're going to talk about that, but a lot of Black people, and specifically people from the African diaspora, have expressed how empowering and inspiring that representation was for them. So positive representation and accessibility lead to a more inclusive mindset. And especially in Italy, it would have an impact at a cultural level where colonial stigmas are still very eradicated. In terms of representation, visibility, business opportunities, what next step do you think could be done to keep this momentum going? And how must decision makers proceed, or what have they already started doing? So again, we're talking about no new designers, because I understand that we have to care for new designers as well, but there are designers from the African diaspora who have been working for a very long time and who have consistently improved their craft. And some people have noticed them, you know, like I said, Beyonce have showcased them, and we have seen the impact on their business that Black is King has done, you know, and also her website. But this is maybe the first time that I've seen such a showcase in such a promotion at such a large scale of African designers. So what do you think can be done to keep this momentum going? And how must decision makers proceed, you know, or what have they already started doing? So who would like to begin to answer these questions?
Okay, I could say something about that. For these brands who have already been in the industry and have some type of momentum going for them, I think the topic of Black needs to continue being present. Like, we've been extremely loud this year for reasons you all know. And I believe that we need to continue making the topic relevant and go viral for always until things change. And so once we are able to do that and we educate people around us in our communities how important it is to give to help these people, to help Black designers grow, it will become a trend, and that trend will continue to grow until they hopefully become a name, an important name, such as the Italian names that we have here. So that's what I would say, that to continue making the subject of Black being relevant all the time and making noise in the online space, especially because I truly believe in the power of the internet.
Anyone?
Maybe if I may add something, I think what we need right now is maybe more representation inside the fashion industry, not just models, not just influencers, not just people being put up front of a campaign or photo shoot, but we need insiders, people, decisioners, Black decisioners, people of color who being able to make decisions and to just, sometimes it's not just about who you use as a model. It's also about how do you frame the campaign you're using, how do you frame everything. So I think that would be the most interesting thing I hope to see in the years to come, especially because we have been using Black people for representation in the fashion industry for a while now, and it hasn't changed a lot, actually. I still hear from Black models or as they are treated during Fashion Week. I'm still hearing, we are still discussing the fact that Black fashion designers don't have the same platform or the same help as maybe other white designers. So those conversations, we have been having them for some time right now. And maybe we need to not just focus about representation, but focus about where we want the representation to be performed.
I love that.
Okay, so I know that Federica Dottori has to leave very soon, has to leave us very, very soon. So if you have any conclusive thoughts you would like to share before we log out, please do it now. Because so that we can
maybe I can say a little something just for the viewers out here, creatives, people who have ideas. I want to say that you need to tell the world who you are. You need to spread your message. You need to find a way to be known, because no one else is going to know who you are or is going to make the effort of making you known or making you relevant. Only you hold the power to do that. And right now, you have that possibility on your phone. If you can just share with the world what you stand for, if you can share with the world your ideas and try to change the status quo in some way, I have faith that you will be heard. So that's what I would like to tell our viewers today.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see if anyone, Louis, would you like to say something, since you haven't really talked much today? If you would like to say a conclusive thoughts before we log off.
I mean, I can only just piggyback on the last statement. If you know, just stay true to yourself. Keep going. Don't let other people's prejudices affect you.
Yes, I agree with both of you guys. Keep on fighting.
Thank
you. Yeah.
A lot of
and
people
hopefully
will you know, but you know, yes.
Yeah, let's hope that the industry starts, you know, turning words into actions, or I should say, listen and acknowledge the change that has already happened at a lower level. That's it. At the end of the day, decision makers have to make the decisions to change the industry. So thank you all so much for joining us, for being here, and for sharing your wise words. And thank you to all our viewers, and stay tuned to all the other events that are going to happen today at the Afro Fashion Week Milano, and the up until going on until Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank
enjoy
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Ciao. Ciao a tutti.
Bye bye.